Man, I just got back from a 3-mile walk, and it's like 95 degrees out there and super humid. And like I'm trying not to sweat into my beer because that would first of all, that would dilute the beer. And second of all, that would be weird. Because then I feel like I would be sweating in your beer. And that would just be downright strange. So, cheers. I didn't wait to open it, so you'll have to do the checkpoint yourself.
Checkpoint! Congratulations!
So, we're waiting on you. If you didn't get the hint, that means get up out of your seat or whatever. Get yourself a beer. Get a cold one. It's Friday. Mosey on over to your fridge or whatever. Or maybe, like if you're in space, can you just hang a 6-pack out the side of the airlock and chill it in the vacuum of space? I never tried that. Launching this big project right now. It's the end of the day and I'm burned out, but I decided the coldest room in my house just so happens to be the room where I have my microphone and amplifier. So here I am, sweating to death in the coolest room in my dwelling, the basement dungeon. And I'm already like 3/4 of the way through my sweet Miller Lite, my classic game room beer glass. I don't usually go for light beer as a general rule, but during the week I tend to drink light beer instead of a West Coast IPA because they're like crack. Like if you have one West Coast IPA, that inevitably leads to like 5 of them, which then leads to that scene where R2-D2's head is spinning around and sparks are shooting out of him. So good, but sometimes you also need your droids to function. So Miller Lite is the best light beer. And I'm sure somebody out there is going to be like, no, they're blah, blah, blah. No, you're wrong. Miller Lite is the only good light beer. And the reason is it actually tastes like beer instead of like urine. It's nice and crisp, reasonably low calorie, goes down smooth. Nice crisp, hoppy, well, it's not that hoppy, but it's nice crisp Pilsner. The Europeans are probably rolling their eyes right now, and justifiably so. I mean, your beer's better, but, sometimes you need just a light beer. Like, I tried Michelob Ultra, and I felt like I was basically paying... It's like 99% marketing, 1% liquid. I'm not really sure it is beer. I can't recommend that one. I think it's marketed at people who want to be like healthy, and it's in that can that kind of deceptively looks smaller. It's a 12-ounce can, but it's like those thin cans. So it looks like maybe it's smaller than just like a normal fat 12-ounce can. Like, oh, I'm going to definitely, hit the gym and then have a Mick Ultra later, and it's going to be healthier than just like a Miller Lite. It's not. Just pony up. Actually, no, I think the Miller Lite's cheaper. Just save $1 and get a better beer. Miller Lite all the way. So, I said I don't normally go for light beer. Yeah, this past week, actually, I've gone for light beer quite a bit. It's been my beer of choice. It's been 1,000 degrees, and, a nice Miller Lite does the job. Now, some people prefer like a PBR. Not a bad choice for a hot summer day. PBR is a good porch beer. Like, you're probably not sitting on the porch contemplating, like, having deep thoughts about the flavors in your beer. You're just basically throwing back beers at that point and like listening to Van Halen. So, and for that purpose, PBR is perfect. Miller High Life, also a good choice. Miller High Life's got like a quality to it that no other beer has. It's just, there's something to Miller High Life. It's like sweet and delicate, and the bottles are fantastic. If you're going to give an award for the best beer bottle design, High Life. I mean, it's just, they're beautiful. They're like works of art that you drink from. So anyway, what are we, like 5 minutes into the podcast here, and all I've done is talk about beer? All right, job well done. Hooray me. Hey, this isn't Night Eagle. This is Infinity Vice. Who's making this podcast? Hey, check this out.
Checkpoint.
Yeah, can you tell what kind of beer this is? Just from the opening sound? That's right, baby. What beer won the Blue Ribbon in 1893? PBR. Do a little flavor comparison here after having a Miller Lite. Miller Lite versus PBR. Who defeats? I'll tell you right now, I'm defeating. This is the way to spend a Friday. Talking about literally nothing, drinking beer and staying cool in my studio. This beer's pretty good. Definitely a different flavor than Miller Lite. Now they're both light beers basically. One of them says light on it. The other one just says Pabst Blue Ribbon beer, 12 ounces of thunder. Doesn't say thunder, but it could. What does it taste like? Tattoos and girls in short shorts. Anyway, so when I'm not doing a critical analysis of cheap beers, what do? Throw in my marketing team a bone. They said, do a podcast. Okay. I don't have anything to talk about. So I guess that gives me an excuse to just drink beer, and I'll talk about the project I'm doing. So you can either stick around and listen to this or not. It's up to you. You can also just drink beer and watch RoboCop. I mean, you can do that afterwards also. You could drink PBR on the porch, but it's pretty hot out there. However, the benefit to drinking PBR on the porch is that you can also throw the cans at passerbyers. I was trying to think of the term for those people. Basically just moving targets for beer cans. You know, just walking by and they're waving at you. Hello, neighbor! Ow! Who's that for? It's Friday, asshead. Welcome to the neighborhood. You know, they filmed Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood not too far from me. Clearly, I've taken inspiration. An inclusive neighborhood is one where you share your beer cans with passerbyers. Because, you're not really going to hurt them with a beer can. I mean, someone tried to throw a beer can at me last week. They missed. But it's not like it would have hurt that much. See, a bottle would hurt. So you got to be careful about who you throw beer bottles at. Anyway, back to reality here. Not like that isn't reality. I mean, the thing with a bottle is you can get some leverage with the top. If you grip the top of the bottle, you can really whip that thing. Got no experience doing it. Definitely have never thrown a beer bottle at a person. Maybe a deer or two, but they deserve it. Deer suck. They're like squirrels, but bigger. Maybe it's a Pennsylvania thing. They don't even care anymore. They just walk down the middle of the street and just give us the finger. It's I will throw a beer bottle at you, and they'll be like, whatever. I'll give you ticks. I'll eat your herbs and ruin your dinner. Stupid ass deer. Where was I again? See, I'm so easily distracted. Okay, so I'm making a big comic book and soundtrack project. Alright? It's a thing. And apparently, here's my notes, it's on Kickstarter now. Night Eagle, 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 Eagle. If your checks don't bounce, you can employ Night Eagle. Now, the project is Omega Ronin, and I've been working on it for 5 years. I'll talk about that, because I'm fiddling with my amber vision off. I just put my amber vision on. You can't even see me. Hans, put away the gun. This is radio.
In 1976, a crack team of commandos was lost in the jungle. This covert team of special operatives is proficient in ninja arts and helicopter combat. If there is a crime to stop and your checks don't bounce, you can employ Night Eagle.
Yeah, we're using Kickstarter for a combination of marketing and to pay for the vinyl production costs, because they're crazy expensive. Vinyl's awesome, but you gotta pay for it. Woo. Anyway, check it out. Maybe it's your thing, maybe it's not. There's super cheap digital options all the way up to records and mini disc and stuff, cassette tapes. Secret cassette mixtapes. Gonna have fun with that one. Who wants me to make you a mixtape? Get ready for that. Be some surprises in the mixtape. Mark doesn't have the rights to put Rick Astley on there, but somehow no, actually I can't do that, but I would if I could. And for what it's worth, I think Rick Astley's awesome. Like, I remember seeing that video when it was new, Never Gonna Give You Up, or whatever. Is that what it is? Never gonna hooga booga hooga hooga. Yeah, great. That was my cousin loved it. I'm just like, this sucks, Def Leppard all the way. But I don't know, it just kind of grew on me over the years. Now I'm like, yeah, kind of dig Rick Astley. He's pretty awesome. So anyway, 5 years ago, I came up with this this concept for I called it Omega Ronin, and like named it right away because I got the URL. That's actually how I decided on that name, was because like, that's a cool name. Wonder if I can get the URL, and I did, and I was like, all right, awesome, now I got it. So you always need to check that before you make up something, by the way. Get the URL. Not that anyone uses websites anymore, but still nice to have. And you can put it on like hats and underwear and stuff. Marketing. It's where the real money from the movie is made, just in case you missed that. Did you ever notice, by the way, in the background of Spaceballs, who's on the lunchbox? You're like, Dark Helmet, nah? Look at it again, zoom in. You'll love it. My wife's vacuuming upstairs. This is what I have to work around. I guess that gives me an excuse to get another PBR. Maybe I should try a different beer, though. I'm gonna do a WHODEFEATZ, a three-way WHODEFEATZ. Has that ever been done before? That might break the internet. With vacuuming in the background. Literally the worst podcast. Oh, it's getting better now. It's the professionalism that makes this show good. No beer. That's where you can really hear the difference between hardware and software. That's hardware synthesizer right there. That's all Juno X. Like, nothing even comes close. I'm using that thing for the soundtrack work. But how this starts? So let's take it back 2019, and like 2019 was an interesting year for my business, and I've been in the middle of writing the history of Classic Game Room, and 18 and 19 were interesting years because everybody just assumed. Maybe not everybody, but an awful lot of people just assumed I was like a disposable piece of garbage who just made a YouTube show for free. That wasn't really true. Well, that's not true. Classic Game Room was like my third career. So I was already too old when I started it. Like, I was already in my mid-30s like when it started the second time, the Classic Game Room HD era. It was a lot of fun, but like I had some life experience by then to realize, well, this probably isn't going to last, so probably should have some other ideas. Anyway, things collapsed a lot faster than I expected, but that took me by surprise. 18 and 19 were tough years because I was shuffling a lot of projects around, and like I wasn't really trying to focus on Classic Game Room anymore, but I was trying to figure out what was next, and it was clearly going to be print in one form or another. So I was juggling a lot of print projects that hadn't really kind of kicked in yet. It took a little while to get this stuff rolling, as you'll read about in the book. So at the time I was a little nervous, but I was building a lot. And when I say building, like creating a lot of like books and projects, and like just like this foundation to create like an assembly line process for books. I like to work in assembly lines, in an assembly line process, which is actually how I made Classic Game Room for a long time, which is why I made so many of them. Go downstairs, turn it on the computer, get the job done, play games all night, repeat. It was awesome. until we lost all of our ad revenue. Then not so awesome. Anyway, in 18 and 19, I was just like shotgunning out ideas. Like, what am I going to do? I don't know. I was working on Magnum Skywolf, and like Ethel the Cyborg Ninja actually like started the whole thing, but like it was a kind of a struggle to like just get people excited about it anymore. All the sci-fi stuff's really hard to sell. But of course I had another science fiction idea called Omega Ronin, which was really just like this, the most powerful, what if the most powerful thing in the universe was like broken? That's basically how the whole thing came about. And like, the most powerful thing in the universe like escapes its own destruction, and like just a bunch of space pirates pick it up, and like then they're supposed to somehow go on adventures together. This was like the early concept, and like I started drawing it, and it just took a long time to draw. And then by the time I realized it was going to take forever to draw, I also realized I wasn't going to be able to market it. And then that was also like the moment when some of my other books just took off, and I went with them instead. So I ended up tabling the project, not because I didn't like it, but just because I had to work on other stuff. So I still had the URL, still had the brand. And then a couple years later, when I started tinkering with the music stuff, I was like, I need a name for a synthwave band. Omega Ronin, perfect, done. And here we are. By far one of my more successful projects in the last couple of years. I have like a bazillion projects, so I'm a big fan of just making a whole lot, because you just never know.
Checkpoint.
There we go. Three-way WHODEFEATZ. You ready for this one? Can you tell what this is? Maybe you could just hear the slight difference in opening the can. It's Michelob Ultra. Still have a couple of these hanging out in the back of the fridge. 95 calories. Yeah, but when you multiply that times 100, it does add up. Pouring it into a classic game room beer glass, which I've said for years always makes every beer taste better. Well, let's find out. That's marketing bullshit.
Checkpoint.
Smells like... What if victory was disappointment? All right, you ready? Let's take a sip. It doesn't taste bad because it doesn't taste like anything. So, you can almost see through the glass, which is kind of nice for the insert beer output fun glass. So I can just, kind of look through it, and it's, I can see right through it, and it's fun. But as far as an actual beer, I mean, if you don't like beer, this might be the beer for you. Which it doesn't taste bad, but it's kind of hard to find any taste in there at all. Which is why I've never purchased another 12-pack of this stuff. Mick Ultra. Ultra overpriced. You're literally just paying for marketing. Wasn't there a commercial where Messi's drinking this stuff? Like, come on. He can afford better beer. Someone get that man a Vina Stefaner. Throughout 2021 and 22, I tried to revisit Omega Ronin, the concept, the science fiction storyline concept, several times. I tried different approaches to starting the story, different approaches to writing the story, different approaches to how I was even going to address the entire project itself, whether it was going to be a comic book or like a novel, and I'd write things that's kind of novelized. I didn't like it, so I'd go back and do the comic book work, but it took too long, and then I tried to mix the two. It probably took at least 10 rewrites. And at one point I think I wanted to make it more of a little more lighthearted, where there was, instead of this just omnipotent being trying to interact with humans, it was going to be more about this this woman who was like trying to become a pop singer in a society of robots. It sounds nuts, I know, but that was kind of like a different story idea that I had. And Edit Station 1 was going to be in it, and there was going to be like this big adventure where they then discover this Project Omega Ronin, like buried in the earth in this like ruined civilization. I kind of went that direction, and then backed off, and then took a different approach with like the woman like being the singer, and like because the whole. But what came out of that was that robots love human music. And somewhere in there, I started just really mixing like the whole like robot and like weird future robot thing with the music and in the albums. I think that started with the album Skywarp, which is actually one of my favorites. And right around that time, I started to launch my like giant marketing experiment on like TikTok and stuff. So I thought it'd be fun to use animation and like synthwave, and so I started working with Unreal. And I'd upgrade computers anyway, so I got like a new gaming computer, which worked really well with the Unreal, and I was able to make like a bunch of cool animation videos. And that kind of impacted the story. Anyway, I put it on hold again for a while, and came back to it in 2024. So I remember this clearly. I'm making a documentary about this too, and there's like this moment where I was taking a walk. It was a nice day. It was like February, March or something. It was like a nice spring day. And it just hit me that what if I recorded a narration for Omega Ronin as if it was like one of those read-along storybook things with like an album, like the stuff we used to grow up on in the 70s and 80s. Like they had a bunch of Star Wars ones and stuff where like you'd listen to the story on the album, and then you could like read it, read along with it on the book. And I'm not sure what it was, but like something about writing it in that way just brought the entire plot together, where I sort of mooshed these 3 or 4 different things that I'd been working on, like the story with the woman who was going to be the singer and the society of robots that all love human singers, like the omnipotent being that's kind of broken. I mixed it with my original Turbo Volcano concept, which was going to be this ridiculous hair metal band in the future that doubles as assassins. That's awesome, I know. So I combined all this stuff with the 3D animation work that I was doing, and just once I found a place to start the story, it finally started to come together. But I kind of got away from the read-along adventure style of the book, but it still made sense to me that there could be a soundtrack for what will eventually be a graphic novel. So, a graphic novel with a companion soundtrack, which I think sounds sufficiently insane. And sometimes the insane ideas are the best ideas. So I'm full speed ahead right now, writing and drawing the book, and that's in production right now. And you can see a lot of the artwork up on the Kickstarter, and I'm going to be putting up hopefully daily or bi-daily drawings just to show the progress of this thing, since it's moving pretty quickly right now. And eventually I'll start work on the soundtrack, but I want to see what the book's going to look like before obviously writing the soundtrack. And I want it on vinyl because I love vinyl. I think it's just a great way to present the album in sort of an old school way, where you can like sit on the floor or whatever on the couch and just like put the record on, and you got like 20 minutes on a side or whatever. It's going to be like 44 minutes of music that matches the flow of the book. Now, you don't need these two things to enjoy it, but that's like the complete experience. You could also just read the book, or just listen to the music or whatever, independently. Or you could do none of the above and just go, blah, it's stupid. Creativity's dumb. Which would be par for the course for the rest of the internet right now. Hey, you know what you should do? is look at whatever videos are popular on TikTok and do that. I'm just kidding. That's the beer talking. Well, certainly not this beer. Is there even alcohol in this? It tastes like if dreams were crying. Prince said, "This is what it sounds like when doves cry." Well, Michelob said, "This is what it tastes like when dreams cry." That's a catchy tune. I should make that. Except I can't sing. Prince was awesome. So back to storytelling. It's hard to find a place to start an adventure series. That's really what I want out of this. Is I want to make a series again. It's been a long time since I've had a series. Like I really miss the days. 30 years ago when I used to write like a comic strip series. It was just fun to do that every day or a couple times a week or whatever. Because then like the characters just take shape and it's like you're following this group of friends every week on their adventure or whatever. And that's where I want to go with Omega Ronin. It's a million years in the future. Robots that were originally created by humans to serve humans turned on the humans and killed everyone. But then spread to the stars because humans are pretty ineffective at long-distance space travel, because we kind of suck. But the robots, as powerful as they are, they lack humanity. It's like the imperfections in humanity are what the robots actually crave, which is why they like the human singing. They can't duplicate it. It's like the flaws that make it special. That's what the humans are good at. So they kept a couple humans in stasis. So there's like a few of them floating around out there in the universe, They're treated well, but they're basically just like singing slaves for these robots. Anyway, there's a robot faction that frees one of them because only a human can unlock this project. Going back to the Buried in the Earth project plotline, Omega Ronin, which is basically a cry for help from this distant civilization that was the most powerful civilization, but it spread itself instead of just like backing itself up on one thing, which I always wrestled with. Like, what would the most powerful thing in the universe look like? MacGyver, obviously, but otherwise, what would the most powerful thing in the universe look like? I never quite got it. Like, it could be anything, and that was, like, really frustrating to draw. Like, what's it gonna be? Like, this thing that's always shape-shifting? Is it gonna look like somebody that these characters know? Is it gonna look just like a giant Gundam? What's this thing gonna look like? And in the end, what it's gonna look like is a sanitation robot from the 22nd century or something, because that's the robot that they inject its consciousness, its semi-functioning consciousness into. Which is just like an old robot that's kind of humanoid. So not only does that help with just like the art, and it's just like, okay, here's what this thing looks like. It looks like a person, so I can draw people, right? But it's also like somewhat makes sense that like they just put this thing into like its body that they already had. So it's not making a decision on what it looks like. It's just by necessity it looks like this. And then that's like the character that you see. Now that also gives a lot of room for expansion, of course. Later on, maybe it'll look like something different. Maybe it'll end up looking like MacGyver with the mullet. And I think what's important though here is that there's also the connection with the 80s hair metal band, because the singer helps to activate this thing. And this stuff has been in stasis since the 80s. It's been locked in this like sort of sealed room for a million years with like hundreds of VHS tapes filled with 1980s music videos. And I should note that the robots will let their guard down for music, so it does make for the perfect assassin. Nobody expects the 1980s hair metal band to be the assassins. This is the thing. It's on Kickstarter now. Comic book, vinyl, lots of combinations of these things, and an art book, cassette tapes. Omega Ronin. Apparently I'm supposed to do this again, so I'll see you next time. Oh, I should conclude the beer WHODEFEATZ. Hang on. I got like this drip of what did I say it was? The tears of dreams. This is what it tastes like when dreams cry. Who wins the beer off? You know, it's kind of a tie between Miller Lite and PBR. Like, I kind of personally prefer Miller Lite. PBR's got a little more taste. They're both pretty good on a 95-degree day. My recommendation is to just don't choose, just drink them both. You could probably pass on the Mick Ultra, though. That one's... See you next time on Classic Game Room, the podcast, where I'll be talking about some of the shots in the book. Like, one of my favorites is the girl rolling around on the hood of the space shuttle. Like, if you don't have a Jaguar, the space shuttle will suffice.